A sincerely wonderful good morning to everyone, and welcome to today's stream. My name is Nvidia, and I'm a video game streamer who primarily plays RPG games. I'm also a hobby voice actor and singer, so you might hear me do one or two of those things during the 24-hour birthday stream. Because yes, it is my birthday. Well, sorry, terrifying. It's my birthday stream. My actual birthday isn't today, it is this week though. Take it off. Right. And I'll be here just like really egging on the chaos. And that's why they are the favorite twin. Okay. Cool. You first let me do anything? Okay, thanks, Anabi. Yeah, it's not like I have a schedule planned out or anything. Yeah, so today is my birthday stream. So we're doing birthday things, namely a 24-hour stream of various activities. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So, our first thing for, the stream is voice acting and story time. So, I'm going to go ahead and read you one of my favorite stories that probably only a few thousand people have heard about. It's basically like this kind of series of short stories that only exist in a Wii video game. And considering how many of the Wii games are not really ported to the Switch, it's very likely that it's lost to time. So this is me like sharing it with the world, bringing it back with my own like voice acting stuff. Though the videos do exist on YouTube. Happy birthday to me. I wonder how many people thought that my announcement on YouTube was purely just an April Fool's joke. Gosh dang it, Hanabi. Did you... You did this last year too. You're not supposed to advertise that it's my birthday. That's not how this works. Now all of China knows I'm here. Alright, let's go with red. There we go. Raise the camera ever so slightly. That works. And yeah, I do have my rocker hair, so to speak, because I haven't decided if I want to tie it or not, and I don't think I'm gonna at this point. I don't think I have anyone from China in my Discord. No, it's the meme, Hanabi. It's the Mulan meme. The very beginning, like one of the opening lines from Mulan. That is burned into my brain because I've watched Mulan so many times. Okay, there we go. It's falling the snow like daisies. Yeah. So let's get right into the voice acting thing before I forget and delay things any further than I already have. Yes, it is that one, but it's muted, so you can't hear it. So before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and read a story to you guys that is about cats. It's a series of short stories. They're like 5 to 10 minutes long, a piece. Yeah, I wonder what's distracting me, Hanabi. It's almost like someone keeps throwing stuff at me that I'm not like prepared for. That I probably should have expected, considering it's you. um, but content warning, right? Um, so there are themes of violence, um, death, grief, impostor syndrome, anxiety. Did I say identity theft? Identity theft, and other like heavy topics and themes. So if you don't want to be sad, um, for like the first 5 or so stories before like the uplifting message at the end comes up, you have been warned. Cough, cough. From beyond the tiny window, fitted in the side of the tiny house, a raspy cough could be heard. There was a tiny bed in the room, where a tiny human child's body lay resting.
Honey, you know that she won't be back yet. You have to get some sleep. The scolding came from a tall woman who entered the room. She'd come to put the lantern out as she rubbed the boy's back.
No,
He replied, shaking his head.
I'm not sleeping. Henri might come back home.
Oh, sweetie. The mother's face was troubled. It was easy to see she knew something. She knew that Henri, the young boy was waiting for, was not coming back.
Henri's coming back. I know she is. She always comes home. I gave her a red bell. She's my little sister.
Ah, so evidently, Henri was his little boy's sister. I continued to watch them in silence. Thinking about the boy, I was reminded of Henri, who was even tinier than her poor, sickly brother. Once, she came to visit her big brother. He was so pleased and overcome with love for her that he gave her a red bell. Although I was not there, I could picture the scene already. Well, if Henri does come, I'll be sure to wake you.
I know the sound of Henri's bell better than anyone.
Henri's bell was small and red, but she was no longer with us. Her red bell was only here because it had been stripped from her dead body. As I looked up at the moon, I recalled the words, desecrating the dead. What I was about to do was the epitome of spitting in the eyes of the dead. That was exactly what I was doing. I had already abandoned her corpse, and now I was adding another sin to my list. But this was my revenge. It was the perfect thing to do. This was my revenge on her for calling me mangy. I called to the boy in a delicate voice. I rang the bell, the sign of his little sister that the boy claimed to know so well. The window opened.
Henri?
The boy called to me. Yes, it's me. It's me, Henri. He stretched out his arms to embrace me.
What happened to you? You're all scruffy.
He asked. I looked nothing like the beautiful little girl he knew, and sounded nothing like her either. Only the red bell remained the same. My revenge was secure. I'm Henri. Henri with her red bell, the youngest little sister embraced by her brother's small arms. So that is the story of Red Bell Henri. And now we move to Orange Bell Bisque. Oh, that's yellow. Well, not that you guys can tell because it's very low. There we go. Orange. Everyone in town called the old writer who lived in this house a weirdo. The house was old-fashioned, and the walls seemed weighted with history. So little care and upkeep had been done to the place, it wouldn't be a stretch to call it done. The front door was always open, and not because it was locked, but because there was no lock at all. Some would think that an invitation to burglars, but the place was such a mess that you'd lose all interest in stealing the moment you stepped inside. The house reflected its owner, an oddball, aged and in disarray. And this day, that oddball writer was laying in the middle of his hallway. For a moment, I thought he was dead. But every once in a while, his finger would twitch, betraying signs of life. The bones at the back of his hand stood out, gnarled under paper-thin skin. But his slicked back hair looked young. The black framed glasses he habitually wore had stayed on, even after his fall. He'd probably worn those glasses so long that they were a part of his very being. And there he lay, weaving my way through the filth and the clothes and the furniture. I entered the house, and he didn't even notice. Bisque! He called my name in a gravelly voice. With each call, my body would shiver with surprise, and the bell would ring. It was a refreshing sound. The old man must have heard it too. He immediately leapt off the floor and turned his back to me. Not another step! The man almost spat out. I don't want you coming near me! And with that, he went back to the mountain of papers that buried what might have once been a desk. His hand never stopped moving as he scratched his head. Believe it or not, he'd call out, drop to the floor, and do it all again. I was thoroughly baffled, and so I sat in the corner of the writer's room until night fell. The bell at my neck continued to tinkle lightly as I tilted my head. Can this man truly be Bisque's family? I came to check up on him every few days, but each time he'd act just as wild and nonsensical. When he wasn't throwing himself on the floor, he was completely immersed in his writing. Disturbed by its unnatural behavior, I tried my best not to allow my bell to ring, and so I stayed, nestled in the corner, until I finally heard the sound of a pen sliding across the desk. A loud sigh was immediately followed by a loud thud. He'd fallen backwards off his chair. Finally finished. The way he breathed those words sounded so unlike his usual crazed tone. I lifted my head, and the bell chimed to him gently. With his back still on the floor, he let out a low moan. Oh, Bisque. Bisque, my dear. I was sure he'd yell at me to stay away again today, but instead, he just lifted his thin, ghost-like arm and gestured to me. Just as I neared him with my careful, steady steps, he suddenly grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and dragged me down with him. At first, I went stiff with fear, but then I heard the beating of his heart. He gently closed his eyes and petted me. Ah, Bisque, is that you? You've gotten so much thinner since I last saw you. His bony hands were rough, but he petted me softly as I sat there, unable to answer. The beating of his heart became softer and softer. He continued to coo at me gently. Here, finally, I'm able to sleep. His last words sounded more like he was speaking them than a dream. As the hand on me never wavered, I finally realized my doubts were cleared. I understood now that this was the orange-belled Bisque family, and as I gently closed my eyes, I could feel the sound of my own heartbeat, slowly melting free of its ice. I am Bisque, Bisque with her orange bell, the foster child who brings peaceful slumber to the master writer, whom everyone called crazy. See, despite desecrating a corpse, there are lighter and happier moments in this. um, and honestly, Orange Bell Bisque is probably like um of just like the story bits, my favorite one of the short story series. Quick shout out to Bree Brev here, who will be joining us for Lethal Company later. Last seen playing Among Us. Checks out, checks out. Welcome in, Bree. And yes, floofy hair because I haven't decided to tie it yet. And I feel it goes better with the whole, cat aesthetic of the story. But again, if you missed the yes, because Bree plays lots of multiplayer games, and so it checks out that you're playing Among Us last. Um, what was I saying? Right. So if you missed the content warning, this game deals with topics of grief, murder, violence, cats, dead cats. Um, so if any of that is like upsetting to you, I totally understand if you would like to set this part of the stream out. In about like 40 minutes here, we'll be done, and we'll move on to the next part of the stream. Yes, but there is like a happy story at the end. Content warning again that came out. This is a series of short stories that I'm voice acting from a game that only exists in the past now because it's a Wii game. Why would kill a poor kitty? That will be revealed. Um, that will be revealed in the story. A tall human was watering the garden. His white shirt and black slacks were simple and clean.
Teacher,
As the young children called out, a man who was watering the grass raised his head. I wish. Yes? Anything the matter? The man they called teacher kneeled down to peer at the young boy through his glasses.
teacher, when's Lot coming back?
The question came from the little girl. Even from a distance, I could see the man's face grow dark.
Teacher, will Lot ever come back?
The little boy looked up expectantly, but their teacher could only furrow his brows and purse his lips. More children gathered, questions alight on their small faces. Their matching white shirts were tattered with use. Oh, it's an orphanage. I could imagine that Lot, too, had joined this circle with their signature yellow bell. The young children didn't appear to have parents. They lived in the big, plain house with the man they called teacher.
Well, what's taking her so long? She's gone away before, but
The teacher murmured an excuse, but the children couldn't be soothed.
you want to play with Lot again. Maybe Lot's sick. Maybe she's hurt. I bet she misses us.
She must miss us. As worry spread among the children, the teacher asked them a question. Let me ask you, does it make you sad to think that Lot's lonely?
Of course. We miss her.
The teacher nodded and continued. Then, if Lot knew how you missed her, it'd make her sad, right? His voice was gentle. As I watched from a distance, I hesitated momentarily. I knew that the yellow bell that Lot possessed was from this orphanage, which is why I had come. But I couldn't imagine that she was really had a family in this place. Would anyone care if she were gone? Their worries now put to rest, the children turned to their games. But one girl lingered behind, a freckled girl with curly hair.
But we all...
The girl mumbled, looking down at her feet.
We're all still sad, even if Lot isn't lonely.
The teacher put his hand on top of the girl's head. I suppose there are some things that can't be helped.
I know what you do at night.
The girl blurted, looking at him hard.
If you really felt it couldn't be helped, then you wouldn't be out searching for Lot every night after you've gone to sleep.
The teacher quickly put a finger to his lips. Shh. Everyone's worried enough as it is.
But now I'm more worried about you, teacher.
The man simply nodded with a sad smile at the girl's words. I know that, and I'm sorry. Then, with the hose still in hand, he looked at the sky and spoke aloud. Between you and me, I'm not all that worried about Lot. I'm sure she'll still survive outside these walls. All that matters is that we all considered her family. I'm sure she wants to treasure those words too, because the family we made here is the only one we've ever had. As far as I'm concerned, we're Lot's family, and as long as she knows that, everything will be okay. And to be honest, I believe that Lot will return someday. Night came, and the lights in the orphanage winked out. I slowly crept out from the shadows that spread before the orphanage. The moment teacher saw me, he stopped in his tracks. The light from the full moon completely transformed me. I rang the bell, knowing it was all I could rely on. Lot, is that you? Yes, yes, it is me, Lot. So then, does this mean you're ready to come back to our home? But of course, if you'll have me, that is. Back at the orphanage, the freckled girl was trying her best to calm the children who were crying from teacher's absence. For days now, she had taken his place guarding them at night, holding the young girl to him. The teacher announced my return to all the children, to all the family. I am Lot, Lot with her yellow bell, a gentle member of this orphanage, with a bigger family than anyone could ask for.
Okay. Yeah, looks like we're still on track here, so we might be able to finish in 20 or 30 minutes if I can like uh get in the mindset. So next is Blue Bell Fleur. Fleur, 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 Fleur. I just don't get the boss these days.
Behind the mill, I heard the two men talking. They wore matching white uniforms smeared with soot, while smoke seeped from their mouths and young faces. I snuck up to where their shadows touched the earth, and eavesdropped on them behind the pole.
He missed deadline again. And he smacked me just yesterday. Said I left the ashtray full. Huh. If he didn't dog us like that, he wouldn't have anything else to do. He said all we do anyways is smoke cigarettes. I just don't get it. Boy, you said it.
There was the banging sound of a mallet. Word had it that this mill was built by the skilled but eccentric foreman. He had since taken on two assistants to make furniture around the clock. But the two men just idled their days away, breathing out an endless stream of white smoke.
It must be you know what. Wouldn't be surprised. Ask him. You idiot. He'll do more than just box your ears if you do. I wouldn't complain, even if he ran me through the sander. Through the sander alive. You just can't win with him. Boy, I'll say.
And with that, they went back to their smoking.
It's seriously been a month since Fleur went missing. Huh. I guess not coming back. She probably finally had that barbarian. But I'm gonna miss how one look at her kisser, the boss move to 180.
That was as far as I overheard. Stealthily, I did an about-face and skirted the wall of the mill. From my neck now dangled the blue bell, the symbol of this mill. Today I'd come to be the boss, Fleur. Approaching the window, a loud voice boomed from inside.
I told you, it's just not possible.
You're not making any sense, you dimwit. The sound receiver slamming down his cup with wood being shaved. My ears stood on end and trembles racked my body. The words, "Run through the sander alive," danced in my head. No doubt heard like mad. I imagined it, looking down at the blue bell. Does it hurt more than death? Not having experienced either, I don't know. But dying probably hurt more. At that thought, the trembling stopped. It must have hurt Fleur a lot. I can't do this anymore! This time, a piece of furniture flew out the window. Things were taking a turn for the worse. I couldn't control my shivers, and the blue bell let out a ring. The boss turned his wrinkled brown face in my direction and scowled. I thought he'd look right through me with his muddy gray eyes. I didn't have the beautiful body of Fleur at all. I was terrified he'd say I wasn't this lovely Fleur and would run me through the sander right then and there. Then, he suddenly swung his hand high. The palm of his weathered old hand was blistered, the skin like bark. I was sure he'd strike me, but instead, his hand came to cup my face. His rough and powerful hand stroked my head so softly. "You strong little thing." His gruff voice more like a groan, the way it trembled. It struck my heart. Didn't he doubt me? Didn't he see right through me? Should I really let him continue stroking my head like this? I was speechless as he took me in his arms effortlessly.
Boys, get in here,
He yelled behind the mill.
quit your grumbling and get back to work. If you don't want me to wax your ears, then polish me some new wood and step on it.
Despite being yelled at, the two men had twinkles in their eyes.
The boss! Fleur's back!
They hollered, hands in the air. Unable to speak, the blue bell spoke for me with a tinkle. At that moment, I had won over her name. I am Fleur. Fleur with her blue bell. Petted by a hard-headed boss. I am a furniture maker's beloved daughter.
Okay, 3 more to go. We're on track. You brought me a think. Okay? Thank you for buying me a think. Or a thing. Sending it in Discord, lol. Unless... Oh, it's your backup account. That's why. I have to accept your friend request first. There we go. Okay, is that it? You sent me a friend request? We are friends now, Flickers. After 2 years. That's all it took. I shall continue the story. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, guys, these are all stories about cats. But I promise it does have a happy ending if you want to stick through it. And again, there are lighter moments here and there. Oh, another one of those stream keys. Steam keys. Neko. Thank you, Flickers. Let me go ahead and redeem that. It's a Steam key. Thank you so much for the birthday gift, Flickers. You didn't have to get me anything, but I do appreciate it. Let's see. Games. Activate a product on Steam. Paste it. And then... Oh! Okay. Thank you, Flickers. Flickers just got me Jackbox Party Pack 4. So we have more than one Jackbox to play. Very, very helpful. What kind of happy ending, Bree? Not that kind though, but there is a happy ending, I promise.
Bree Brev gifted 1
We
subscription.
just have to get through like the harder parts to get there is the thing. Okay, I'm gonna start installing that already. Okay, so reset. Okay. Oh, Purple Bell Sylvia is next. Think they're here for Jackbox? Not sure. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what they're here for. Could be for anything, really. It's a mystery. Okay, picture-in-picture mode. There we go. Then move it over so I can make eye contact with you when I read the story. Well, as much eye contact as I can make with the camera. Oh, and earphones for my voice. Dawn was just about to break, and the subdued rays of morning light were finally spreading across the sky. I was taking my time, strolling through the bustling scene of the early hours. The clamor hurt my ears. Angry shouts rang from the main street, while flirts could be heard in the alleys. I avoided the hubbub on my way.
Just being in a foul place like this made me remember the life I had led. There was a shop with its door propped open. The music that wafted from within was not what you'd consider uplifting. The sign by the entrance was half shrouded in dark. The word Sylvia adorned it. "Boss, I think you've had enough," a sweet voice said from behind the bar. The bartender was a long-haired woman in a sleeveless dress who was leaning against the wall. "I know it's up to you, but I think you've been hitting the ball too hard lately." The voice was young and knitted, like that of a male cat calling to a female. "I think it might not." Rika. A glass clattered hard against the bar's surface, cutting her off. Silence followed. "Fine. Don't listen to me then." The girl behind the counter took the glass to fill it, but grumbled in disapproval. "I'm just saying this out of concern for you. You look exhausted these days. And the last date on this place? Well, you know." Rika. Again, the glass hit the counter. A cigarette was lit. "Once you're done, you can leave for today." "What? Do you want me to fire you?" The woman bristled with anger, but the girl named Rika only shrugged her shoulders. "Don't say that. If you deserted me, I'd be all alone." The glass she placed on the bar didn't smell of the pungent alcohol. It was a white liquid. "The last owner of this place died from alcohol poisoning. I don't want that to happen to you. See you tomorrow." There was the sound of high heels approaching. I darted behind the sign. "Huh?" Rika looked up and down the alley bathed in morning light. "Sylvia?" I already knew who she was calling to by that name. Rika gave a heavy sigh for the first time and dragged her feet down 30th Street. It was only when she was finally out of sight that I made up my mind. I'd never heard how Sylvia had been brought up before she died. She was so shy and quiet. There wasn't much to say about her. She was the one girl I didn't hate. But now I was going to steal her name. At first, I thought it was revenge. It had to be. Revenge against them for living better lives than me. And it was revenge against my own cruel fate. Step by step, I made my way through the half-open door, into the shop, and whispered, "Mama." The woman was slumped over the bar, the same as when Rika first left. She sluggishly hoisted herself up to look at me, and shock ran through her head. She wasn't sure what she was hearing. I whispered once more, "Mama." That's when her barren eyes, laced with crow's feet, wrinkled in a squint. "Oh, so it's you." She laughed with tears in her eyes. "You poor little thing. You look just the same as when you first came here." Something about how she said that made her sound like Rika. "Where have you been? You've been gone for so long. What have you been doing? What have you been doing with yourself?" "Here, drink up. You can have this. It's your favorite. I'll give you whatever you need. Anything at all." "There's a good girl," she cooed in a slow drawl, offering me the glass. I wonder if Sylvia was also served this warm milk, like this the first time she came here. "I'm sorry," I whispered for the first time to myself. I am Sylvia. Sylvia with her purple bell. The little girl who was held close by Mama in a small downtown bar. Oh, hey, Peppy. Thank you so much. We are celebrating my birthday stream today. But to those who are just joining in, because I see there's so many of you,
Holy cow. Um, we're doing voice acting and a 24-hour stream, as you can see here. And please go ahead and follow Peppy here. Poppy is a Pokemon streamer as well as a general news streamer. I think you're what, 5 followers away from affiliate now? So please help Poppy by giving a follow and hitting that affiliate status. Okay, Silver Bell Chris. Here we go. The silver bell wasn't a particularly outstanding decoration, but it did ring the most beautifully. I had always wondered what kind of home such a lovely bell had come from. It belonged to an old woman who lived alone, without relatives, in a large mansion I'd never seen before.
Madam, it's time for supper.
Thank you, dear.
Madam, the lilies of the garden have bloomed. I've put them in this vase.
Ah, what a lovely scent.
Madam, it started raining. Allow me to close the windows.
Yes, and draw the curtains too. The old woman was waited on hand and foot by her servants. She'd rely on their help and sat idly in her chair, listening to her favorite music. She'd even ask them to change out the records, but most of the servants seemed to genuinely adore their employer. But there was one thing the old woman would ask several times a day.
Excuse me, but could you call Chris here for me?
Later that same day,
Oh, where is Chris?
and again even later,
Please find Chris for me.
the normally obedient, this one request was always met with hesitation.
Madam, Chris is all ready.
The maids and butlers would start cautiously.
Oh, yes, you're quite right.
The old woman would say, cutting them off.
She's not with us anymore, is she? I'd nearly forgotten.
She'd murmur with a nod, but not a few hours later, she'd ask the same questions again. She had them stop her favorite record.
Oh, wherever could my darling Chris be?
One rainy night, the mansion was in an uproar.
Madam!
Madam!
The servants dashed through the halls, in a frenzy. Finally, one of the maids shouted in despair,
Why can't I find her cane?
Though it wasn't too cold outside, the sheets of rain continued to pour relentlessly.
She couldn't have gone outside, could she?
A chill passed over the gathered servants before they set out. They put on their coats and called for help outside. I tore my eyes from them and made for the rain-drenched town. Amidst a downpour, I smelled the sweet fragrance of lily. In the back lane of a park, far from the mansion, I made out the figure of an old woman. She was surrounded by a crowd who moved and grabbed around her.
Come on, lady. You'll catch your death out here. Maybe you should see the police.
The old woman's shoes and designer clothes were soaked through. A man tried taking her by the hand, but the old woman refused to budge, her face adamant. Fed up with her antics, the men finally left, leaving her behind. I cautiously stepped out into her field of vision. Without saying a word, rang my silver bell. It rang clear through the rain. The old woman raised her head sharply in surprise, her blurry eyes looking at me.
Chris?
The old lady rasped. I rang the bell again and nodded, then turned around.
Chris, wait! Wait for me!
Her cane clicked as she followed me. I may not be able to carry her all the way to the mansion, but I'd be enough to bring her to her servants. I stopped often to look over my shoulder, to make sure I didn't lose her. The sound of that beautiful bell was a beacon. At last, one of the servants noticed the old woman and shouted,
Madam!
As she ran towards her, the old woman bent down to scoop me up and held me trembling. The servants weren't able to hide their surprise, seeing how much the late Chris had changed upon her return. Not one of them said that I wasn't Chris, because the old woman called me so. The maids nodded in obedience.
just glad their beloved employer had returned home safe. I am Chris, Chris with her silver bell. I'm the tiny, adorable Chris, loved by her grandmother in this grand mansion. I've gained so much, gentle hands and many, many new names. Monday's Henri, Tuesday's Fleur, Wednesday's Sylvia, Thursday's Lotte, Friday's Bisque, Saturday's Chris. And for just one day, I'm no one else but myself. It was supposed to be revenge. Revenge for the deceased girls who led a better life than I, with vengeance and blasphemy laid to rest. All that's left me is a lie. Before I knew, I began wondering about the future. When, tell me when will I fall in love? Once I find someone who loves me, I'll finally be given a name. Not just someone as a substitute, but a name all my own. That's what I decided. So then why? Why did I have to meet him? He lived on a cliff face that looked down on the town. His features were considered striking, his posture regal. But those weren't the only things that made me stop in my tracks. I didn't really need a reason. Because to him, it didn't matter what bell I put on. Nothing would change the fact that I was nothing. A bell with two stripes of light pink lay at his feet. It didn't belong to him. The bell, like his love, was waste on the street. His features knew despair. You could see the hollowness of death in his eyes. No matter how much I stared or spoke, he never once looked back at me. I gingerly pick up the rosy pink bell. Its soft sound should be enough to reach his ears, stir his heart, and open his eyes. Then in a husky voice he will speak in a tone drowning in emotion. He will call out the name of his past love. And I'll choke up with emotion and smile as I say, "That's right, I'm your Maria." And then there won't be any real me left in this world. Please, please, tell me your real name. I giggle softly and answer again, "I am Maria." His brow will surely furrow as he snuggles close. "That's not your name. It can't be." "But that is the name of your beloved, right? I loved you, but the one that you loved was never me at all. You loved the real owner of this pink bell. Imagine it, a rival whom even death couldn't kill. The one woman he really loved. I hated her, cursed her, and stole her name and identity. And I'd do it no matter how miserable it makes me." "Oh, Maria, if we had never met, then I'm sure I'd have rotted away right on the spot." Those are the only words that can bring me salvation now. As long as you're happy, they'll never need a silly name. A storm was brewing. The high winds that had been beating on the window since morning gathered dark clouds and pelted the forest trees. I leapt from the safety of the old woman's blanket, raced to the town, and headed for the mountain cottage. My old hideout. I take a bell and think about the past each time I came here. I go by many names now. So whose ghost remains in this dreary mountain hut? A brilliant flash of light, coupled with thunder, filled the sky. Every hair on my body stood on end. There was a tearing sound of wood splitting. Chills ran down my spine. I quickened my pace without thinking. A tremor crept down my back. The scene that greeted me as I reached the hut was indescribable. A massive cloud of smoke clogged my nose and burned my hair. The mountain was on fire, and the gusty winds helped spread the flames quickly. In my panic, I dove into the hut. The heat was as hot as stoked coals, but through the burning and the stench, I knew I had to salvage my bells. They had been proof that the girls had lived, and now they were the one place I felt at home. I gathered the 7 bells and made for my escape, but the hut entrance was already engulfed in flames. I leapt through the broken window, feeling as though I was being burned alive. I could hear destruction all about me. Just outside the window was a cliff face. I jumped down from my perch, prepared to take the dive. Through it all, I kept the 7 bells tightly held in my mouth.
Okay. One last, everyone. And to those who are just joining us, once again, content warning. We're dealing with themes of grief, violence, sad and dead cats. But there is an uplifting message at the end here. Oh, and identity theft, if that wasn't clear. Um, this unnamed cat has been stealing the names of all of these kittens so far.
After falling unconscious, I awoke to the pattering of raindrops. I could still smell the mountainside burning, but the rain was now falling harder than before. I knew I was far from safe. Nestled close against the ground, I had already lost the sensation in both my arms and legs. I asked the heavens if this was my punishment. Was this what I deserved for having taken the dead girl's happiness as my own in a twisted and shameless act? To the ash-ridden world, a voice was calling me. No, that's not my name. And yet,
Maria! Maria!
yes, the one calling me was none other than my beloved.
Maria, hang in there! Don't die on me!
Oh yes, my love, my one true love, don't give up, I whispered desperately. Don't give in to despair, please. Live. I thought if he lost me, he'd never see his Pres Maria again. And it wasn't just him. Henri, Fleur, Sylvia, Lotte, Bisque, Chris. They had all been beautiful. Don't kill me, I shouted. Please don't kill the ones you love. Trembling, I handed the 7 bells over to him. If you can, take these in my place. Just don't let their loving families lose all their hope. He looked at me as if wanting to speak, and taking the bells with him, he turned and ran. As his figure became smaller and smaller, it was eventually washed away by the rain. I tried calling his name, but couldn't form the words. If I managed to speak, I might make the mistake of telling him something I could never say. As I thought about how the cold rain would sweep away the fire along with my soul, I thought of the last person who considered me family. I may not have been the one they loved, but I certainly loved the warm and gentle hands that touched me. I lied and desecrated the dead, all for my revenge. And yet here I was, crying. Here on the brink of death, I'd come close to those girls and could finally, truly cry for them. After all, you know how it is. You must know, right? All of you wanted us to live. The rain washed the mountainside gray, draining the light from everything. I was cloaked in darkness and rain. Then I heard the faint sound of a bell ringing. At least I could tell that my ears were still working. I focused on my senses on the source. Then, just behind the sound, I heard footsteps and voices approaching.
Come on, Henri!
I thought I was hearing things. It had the memory against the sound of the bell. After all, no one would call for me. Fleur!
Sylvia!
It can't be. My eyelids fluttered. Why? From beyond the falling ash, I could make out figures. They circled around me, The boy, the boss, Mama. Lot! Bisque! Chris! No, the children. And the teacher, the master writer, and the grandmother. No, I tried to scream, but failed. No, don't look at me. You'll see through my lies. Don't hate me. I was never the girls that all of you loved. We already knew that, was the reply from the one whose 7 bells gathered everyone here. You snuggled close to me as I was wrapped in a warm towel. As you kept me warm, you dropped the 7 bells. We already knew that all along. He sounded on the verge of tears and kissed my cheek. Don't you see? The ones we love weren't the ghosts from the past. His words forgave me. We all know you made up those lies to try and help us. No one else but you could have made us feel so good, could bring us so much joy. It was all thanks to you and your 7 bells. I closed my eyes, the tears still streaming. I thought my life was just one lie after another, but no longer. I finally understood it now. My name will be the 7-colored bell, a name given to me by my loving family and friends. I am Belle, carrying my 7 colors. I was the most loved in town. I am Belle, and I was the luckiest cat in the world for having 7 names.
There we go. See, happy ending. You just had to get through all the other stuff. Okay. It's a very sad story. Um, so forgive me if I'm blubbering. Uh, no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what you tell yourself, everyone deserves love. And that's why this is like one of my favorite stories. So I'm very happy to share it with all of you. So for context, Belle, who is the protagonist of this story, was she was a cat that got in a cat fight with 6 other cats. All of them, well, cats being cats, were cat fighting, and Belle was the only survivor. So yes, dead cats, because some wild cats have to do that, and even some domesticated cats will do that if they're defending themselves or their territory. Um, so what Belle did, being the only survivor, she picked up the bells of all the other cats, and one by one she visited and stole the identity of all the other cats. But you know, people aren't that dumb. I'm sure they all realized right away that Belle wasn't actually any of those other cats. But it brought comfort that you know she was willing to be with them every day. So yeah, um, by the end of the story, it's revealed that they all knew and they all loved Belle for what she did and for herself, for 7 colored Belle. So yeah, despite the horror of dead cats and all the grief that um, went through that, I really really love that story, and I come back to it every now and again. Um, it's one of the biggest reasons why I chose Nvidia as my as part of my handle. If you couldn't tell, all the cats are representing the seven deadly sins and all that. You'll probably never be able to play this game because this game only existed on the Wii. But uh, if anyone was able to take away that story of love from that, um, then that's enough. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will take a quick break here to stop crying. You can ring my bell,